Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, Andrew Friedman confirmed that the Dodgers will be in the market for starting pitching. We got a couple questions from listeners about Corbin Burnes. We'll talk about those trade proposals, and we will talk about some of Friedman's other comments about Kiké Hernández, Clayton Kershaw, JD Martinez, and other stuff. That's what's on tap. So let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. Or even better, go ahead and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. Then you can be an everydayer just like we are. If this is your first time with us, that guy next to me is Vince Samperio. I am Jeff Snider. We are your hosts. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like you are. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And Vince, Andrew Friedman talked to the media on Tuesday. A lot of what he said was mostly, confirming things that we already knew. And we'll dig into more of what he said in our last segment today. But one of the things that he mentioned is that the Dodgers will be in the market for starting pitching, which is, definitely one of the things we already knew. But he's now confirmed it. And free agency, like we talked about yesterday, is full steam ahead now. And it's not just free agency, though. There are definitely some pitchers on the free agent market. There's Yamamoto and Iminaga from Japan. There's Blake Snell and Aaron Nola and Jordan Montgomery and a handful of other decent pitchers. But there's also the trade market. And we're going to, we'll look at some of those free agents some more. We've talked about some of them already. But today we're going to look at the trade market, specifically one starting pitcher, because we actually got two different trade proposals from listeners asking about Corbin Burnes of the Brewers. And Burnes is a guy, he's been on top of mind. There was talk last offseason, that the Brewers might trade him. Burnes was unhappy with the way his salary arbitration hearing went with the Brewers this past spring. So there was a little bit of acrimony there. And now we have Brandon Woodruff is out for 2024 with injury. I think it's the whole season, at least most of the season. I can't remember for sure. But definitely out for a while. And the Brewers just lost their manager. They currently don't have a manager. They're kind of scrambling there because Craig Counsell left for a division rival. And so it seems like the Brewers might take this opportunity to do a little rebuild. And so I thought, Vince, that we would just talk about these two trade proposals. And first, we have one from Ismail on Twitter. He asked, would the Brewers trade Corbin Burnes and Christian Yelich to the Dodgers for low prospects? Dodgers take on Yelich's contract, 5 years, $130-ish million left. If the Brewers kick in $30 million, Yelich is paid about $20 million a year. I know 5 years is a lot, but we need a starting pitcher like Burnes. $20 million a year isn't horrible for Yelich. And, a lot to unpack there. But I guess first we could talk about the idea of packaging Burnes and Yelich together to kind of for the Brewers to offload Yelich's salary. And then we could talk about what it would take from the Dodgers if that trade did go down. But what do you think of that idea of Burnes and Yelich packaged together?
Yeah, if it was this point last year, it would probably cost more because you would have 2 full years of Burnes, but it also might cost you a little bit less because Yelich hadn't been good for 2 seasons. And then Yelich had a little bit of a revival last year. Nothing, groundbreaking, but he did have an OPS plus of 124, 19 homers, 34 doubles, 28 stolen bases, pretty serviceable guy. Not quite the MVP numbers that he put up back in 2018, 2019, but still pretty serviceable. And if you got them to eat salary for the Yelich that played last year, then that would be a win for sure. But I do think because of the way he played last year, because of the way salaries are going, and everything else, I don't think it's as much as low prospects if you're asking the Brewers to then kick money on top of it. If you're taking Yelich full salary plus Burnes, maybe you can get away with not giving up as much in the prospects. But if you ask him to kick in money, I do think it would cost a little more than someone might think.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page because and Yelich, he did have a better season, although he's still a shadow of what he was when he won the MVP and then finished second the next year. Especially in the power department, he hit 19 home runs last year. He had a 447 slugging percentage. Like between 2018 and 2019, his slugging percentage was 631 those 2 years, and so I mean it is much less. He had 80 home runs in those 2 seasons. He is significantly different of a player. And if you look at his percentages, his BABIP was up a bit. His BABIP last year was 342, which is the best it's been since those 2 MVP caliber seasons. His home run rate is way down, like I said, from those great seasons. His strikeout rate was down from the last couple of years. So there's nothing about Yelich's last year that screams unsustainable, but it is definitely still a step down from MVP caliber Yelich. But like you said, salaries like even $26 million a year that he's getting for, if you could guarantee the 2023 production for Yelich for the next 5 years, I think any team in baseball will be happy to pay roughly $26 million a year for that production. Defensively, he's not very good. But he's not getting worse necessarily. He's just still kind of your average noodle-armed left fielder with not as much range as you would expect a guy as fast as him to have, kind of the Juan Pierre type maybe. But ultimately, yeah, I think I agree with you that the Dodgers can't ask for money and make it just lower prospects. I think about the Mookie Betts trade. The Dodgers took on David Price to lessen their prospect load, but they still had to give up Alex Verdugo and Jeter Downs and Connor Wong. It was, Verdugo was a legitimate established major leaguer. Basically, he was the major league replacement for Mookie Betts, plus a couple other prospects. And that was with the Red Sox paying half of Price's salary. So, I think that's a little bit of framework. Obviously it's different because Yelich is better at this point than Price was. And Burnes is probably not quite at the elite level that Mookie was. But it kind of gives you a little bit of a hint of, what it would have to be. And so without mentioning specific players, this just said low prospects. I do think it would take still a significant haul to get Burnes and Yelich.
Yeah. And then, it all come down to what the Brewers are looking for. They're looking for players that are close to major league ready. Like, is it one of those where the rebuild will be as quick as 2025 if they were to trade Burnes and Yelich with Woodruff out, new manager? Like, would it be as quick as 2025, or would they be looking more like 2027? And that would obviously change the package as well. But for the Dodgers, I know the luxury tax thresholds have become a bigger thing in recent years than they were before. But we're not that far removed from the Dodgers paying Carl Crawford $21 million to not even play, to just be at home. So to pay $26 million for a Christian Yelich that could be serviceable, obviously is, that's what you have financial might for in order to try to get, a Corbin Burnes for a year for not your top prospect and taking on salary. And it works out. David Price sat out 2020, was okay in 2021 as a, guy that kind of swung in and out wherever they needed him. But to get value and also pay, less than $30 million a year for somebody who has a, quote unquote bloated contract would make sense. But yeah, like you said, I don't think it would be insignificant. I don't think it would be, Ryan Pepio or, Bobby Miller, but I do think it could be, maybe a Gavin Stone, or maybe, like I said, depending what they're looking for. And if it got to that point, then it would all depend who they gave up in order of how I felt.
Yep. We did have another trade proposal about Corbin Burnes that did mention specific Dodgers possibly going to Milwaukee. We're going to dig into that when we come back. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Tomorrow is Thursday Night Football. This might not be your best option for betting on. I mean, chances are one of the teams is going to win, but we have the 1-7 Panthers against the 2-7 Bears. I guess you could just go based on who would win in an actual fight, a bear or a panther. And that depends on what kind of bear. I don't know what kind of bear the Chicago Bears are. Anyway, if you have a strong feeling about the Panthers or the Bears, you can put just a $5 bet on them. And if your bet is right, if the team you bet on wins, you get $150 in bonus bets from FanDuel. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Hey, we're back. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Especially want to thank our everydayers who are with us every day. We love talking Dodgers with you, and we appreciate you being here. We love hearing from you guys. We'll give you all the contact info at the end if you want to reach out to us. Even just tell us you're an everydayer. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the YouTube comments section. And just a reminder, even in the offseason, Sirius XM and the SXM app have you covered for baseball with MLB Network Radio. They also have you covered for Christmas music. Starting in the next few days, you'll be able to listen to Christmas music in your car. You can already listen to Holiday Traditions on the SXM app. Just search for Holiday Traditions if you're into Christmas music like I am now that it's Christmas season. With that said, let's jump into our other trade proposal. This one came via email from Rick Tamashiro. And I think I'll read the first part of his, that before he gets into the trade proposal. It's, patting ourselves on the back. He says, "Hey, Jeff and Vince, I love your show. It really is my first listen of the myriad of YouTube baseball shows. Yours is the best Dodgers coverage for level-headedness and sincerity, not a clown show. Thanks. If we ever get t-shirts made, it's going to say Locked On Dodgers, not a clown show." And it'll be true most of the time. And then he throws out his trade proposal. He says, "What do you think of this trade? Gavin Lux, Andy Pages, or insert other young bat, Emmett Sheehan, and either Ryan Pepe or Tony Gonsolin, along with another lower end arm for Corbin Burnes and Willy Adames." And he says, "I would have been okay with the Lux experiment last year, but I think fans can't wait on what would still be considered an experiment this year. Seems like a Friedman type move, and Lux is from Wisconsin. What do you think?" So Vince, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, first pass. That's a lot to give up for basically for 1 year of Burnes, potential to re-sign him, and then Willy Adames, who is a solid shortstop. But I agree with the sentiment of Lux being shortstop. Like, they'd have to improve a lot of the other positions in order for me to feel comfortable with Lux just being handed shortstop again. But Willy Adames, I mean, he was good when he got traded. Offensively, he was really good when he got traded from Tampa Bay to Milwaukee that half season, or he played 100 games, 137 OPS plus, 20 homers, 26 doubles in 99 games. But then since then, he's just been, solid offensively, 110 OPS plus 2022, 95 OPS plus last year. His defense, helps out a little bit in terms of getting the WAR up there. So he's still, by WAR, above average player. But for you to give up, a potential everyday shortstop and then a potential arm that could fit into a rotation right now, a outfield prospect that, if anything, could probably come up and hit 25, 30 homers in the next couple of years, even if he can't, get average or anything else going. And then another potential arm just seems like a lot to me, but there is a core of that deal that makes sense. Maybe not that specific deal.
Yeah, I think that's where I am too. I think that's a little bit heavy. If you look at, defensively, Adames is probably going to be a better shortstop than Lux. I do think Lux is a very, very good athlete. And I think he has potential to be a good defensive shortstop, but I mean, Adames is already, if not elite, at least very, very good at shortstop. And so Adames would be an upgrade defensively. Offensively, it's really hard to tell because, I mean, Lux, even though Lux has still never found his footing in the big leagues, and his career OPS is almost identical to Adames's OPS from last year, OPS plus. And so, like, I understand the appeal of Adames, and I'm not opposed to the idea, but I don't think you have to give up as much as Rick is proposing to make Adames and Burnes happen. When we're talking about, because we're talking Sheehan and Pepe Gonsolin and another pitcher in addition to Lux and Pages. I could see a 5-player trade for Adames and Burnes, but I think at least 2 of those guys would be much lower. I mean, we're talking because Lux, Pepe Gonsolin, Sheehan, you're talking 3 major leaguers plus Pages, who's a top prospect, hitting prospect, and then a lower prospect. I think you could get it done quite a bit cheaper than that. I do think the framework, the idea, I think is a good idea. And maybe we end up, maybe we should have explored the idea of a combination of these. If the Brewers really want to rebuild and cut salary, Burnes, Adames, and Yelich. And I mean, that one trade addresses a lot of the Dodgers' needs for next year, because then they do have the option of, if Lux isn't included in that trade, he can go back to second base again, or they can, to give him another year back, because Adames would be a free agent a year later. And so, it kind of just pushes back the Lux to shortstop plan by 2 years because of the injury. Maybe something like that where they could really match up. And if you're getting Burnes, Adames, and Yelich, then you can justify giving up a little bit more of the farm. The fact is, the Dodgers have a very deep farm system, and we've talked a lot on this show about the 2 reasons you have a good farm system. One is for guys like Corey Seager and Cody Bellinger and Walker Buehler, and you can list them, guys who have come up to the Dodgers and contributed for the Dodgers, but then also guys like Jose De Leon and who else have they traded for good guys who've been productive? Alex Verdugo, a lot of the guys like that. You trade these guys for people to help your big league team. And the fact is, the Dodgers don't have room on their roster for all the guys who are going to deserve to be in the big leagues in the next 2 or 3 years. And so trading some of those guys, to maximize your big league talent right now definitely makes sense.
Yeah, and actually combining Adames and Yelich makes even more sense, because you look at the free agents in this season or this offseason right now, and it's very pitching heavy at the top, and then it's a lot of flyers and wild cards and platoons and guys of that nature. Like offensively, like you have Cody Bellinger near the top of most free agent lists, but even then, like not even specific to the Dodgers, like would you as a general manager feel comfortable giving Cody Bellinger $200 million? I probably wouldn't. And then you go, you move down a little bit further, and you got Matt Chapman, who had a really good hot start to last year and then kind of dipped. And then you have, guys like Lourdes Gurriel and Jorge Soler and, guys of Teoscar Hernandez, guys of similar players. And there's not a lot out there offensively. So a trade would make more sense. Getting a left fielder and a shortstop makes a lot more sense. And the one thing with Lux that, again, not to put him down, but we saw, and they're different types of players, but they're both very athletic. Ronald Acuna Jr. didn't come back the first year from ACL surgery 100%, like in terms of being able to play defense and everything. I mean, he's still not that great on defense, but moving, and he still had knee soreness and stuff like that. So that's another thing to take into account when we're talking about shortstop, is that he might be healthy and clear to play, but he might not be Gavin Lux 100% yet. So it makes sense to look at shortstops that are on other teams when you're looking at what to do this offseason.
Yeah, even if nothing else, Lux could benefit from playing second base instead of shortstop, where there's a little bit less action, a little bit less movement, and all that. It's just a little bit less demanding position. And Lux at second base then means that addresses your outfield situation somewhat too, because then Mookie Betts can just go back to, hey, I'm a right fielder now. And so, a lot of different options there. It does seem like if the Brewers were going to trade Burnes, Yelich, and Adames in the same trade, it would have to be kind of a knock their socks off kind of offer, even just for the PR purposes. But that could be a case of, where you do a mix of quality and quantity, because if the Brewers get 7 players for those 3 guys, even if only 3 of them are good prospects, top prospects, and other guys are more taking a flyer on guys, that could definitely be a situation that could work for both teams, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw them jump in to the Murphy trade last year and kind of make out like bandits a little bit with William Contreras. So like between Stearns isn't there. That's the main difference. Like if it was Stearns and Friedman trying to concoct a deal, you'd feel better about maybe trying to find another team to sucker into it. They don't really. I don't know if they've hired anybody yet, but yeah, they're still kind of figuring things out.
Well, they have a GM. Like Stearns had been promoted above GM anyway. So, Willie Calhoun, that was another guy I could have said the prospect that they traded for somebody, and all those guys who they traded for Manny Machado. That like guys who that was prospect depth. So it's kind of move the Dodgers make. Definitely something to think about. I would love to have Corbin Burnes in Dodger blue. He is a very good pitcher, and I think he would definitely fit a need for sure. We're going to come back in a minute. We're going to talk about some of Friedman's other comments about Clayton Kershaw, JD Martinez, and other stuff. So thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. We are back. Thank you again to our everydayers for being with us every weekday morning. We try to do about a half hour every weekday morning up in time for you to listen on your way to work or while you're getting ready in the morning or whatever. So we appreciate you being with us. And if you're not an everydayer, it's really easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. And remember to check out SiriusXM and the SXM app for all your baseball and Christmas music needs. And you can listen to this show on the SXM app by searching for Locked On Dodgers, because that's the name of the show. Andrew Friedman, I guess first we'll talk about Clayton Kershaw. This definitely falls in the category of stuff we already knew, but it's good to hear the GM say it, or not the GM, whatever Andrew Friedman's title is, the David Stearns of the Dodgers. He said that Kershaw's surgery wouldn't change anything regarding the Dodgers wanting Kershaw back. He is definitely welcome back if they want him back. Chris Young, the Rangers GM, was asked about Kershaw. He said something along the lines of, I'm not going to comment on any specific free agent, but as Kershaw's friend, I wish him the best. So really it is. I mean, Kershaw himself confirmed last year, it's the Dodgers or the Rangers. Those are the only 2 possibilities of who he's going to play for. And, we talked yesterday. I really do think he's close enough to the end of his career that he's not going to go anywhere else. He has a chance to be one of those Hall of Famers who plays his entire career with the same team. So I think it's Dodgers or nothing. But I don't know. It was good to hear Andrew Friedman say that they still want him back no matter what.
Yeah. And, it's the testament to Kershaw, testament to like the Dodgers and how they, feel. You could feel certain ways about players the last couple of years and how they've gone out, or, Justin Turner, whatever the case is. But with Kershaw, I like to understand, he said, we're giving them the time and space to make the best decision for their family, but selfishly, we hope it's for him to continue and finish his career in Dodger blue. And realistically, that's all it comes down to. Yeah.
And this offseason, like last year, it was like, yeah, we're going to give him space, but we hope he decides soon, because there's like, we have to make decisions based on what our roster is going to look like. This year, we know he's not going to be on the opening day roster. And so he doesn't have to make a decision anytime soon. And the Dodgers can move forward, because their approach is going to be the same whether he's coming back or not, because like we said yesterday, we don't know when he'll be back. We don't even know if he'll be back at all in 2024. We hope so, but the Dodgers can basically just plan. There's so many injuries during the year. If Kershaw's ready in July, you know what, they'll make room for him. There will be an opening for him one way or the other. And until then, they can just plan their off season. So I feel like they're in a better position this year than they have been the last 2 years while waiting for Kershaw to make a decision.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're going to get starting pitching regardless.
Yep. Friedman also mentioned JD Martinez, said that not offering him the qualifying offer doesn't mean that they're definitely cutting off the chance of re-signing him. Friedman didn't say the word Ohtani in the conversation, but it was pretty clear what he's saying is there is an elite DH on the market and we're going to go after that guy. And JD is definitely among our plan B options.
Yeah. I mean, we knew that, but just to get it confirmed out there. And it is interesting, from JD's perspective, it's interesting because you're like, yeah, it makes sense, but also like it kind of sucks. But I'm interested at the very least, if nobody signs before the winter meetings in a month, we'll get to see what Scott Boras has up his sleeve for JD Martinez pitch. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. And, and I do think the Dodgers, like we said yesterday, they did right by JD by not making him a qualifying offer. And so hopefully that soothes any hurt feelings. I mean, nobody's really going to realistically say you should have chosen me over Shohei Ohtani. Did Friedman say anything else that stuck out to you, Vince?
No, that's all we got from whatever beat writers were in over there. And then earlier in the day, Kiké Hernández, Ken Rosenthal reported that Kiké Hernández underwent double hernia surgery on October 24th, expected to resume baseball activities in 3 to 4 weeks. And just another, I think it was Friedman or Gomes or whoever said at the end of the season press conference that the Dodgers didn't have surgery scheduled. And technically, I guess they could say that they weren't wrong because all 3 players that have had surgery aren't Dodgers anymore. At the time, or they were technically Dodgers back then at the time, but they're not Dodgers now.
They were hitting free agency. Yeah. And Kershaw, we knew he was hurt. That Peralta and Kiké are both definitely news to us. But it's, it maybe explains some things like when we found out that Peralta was hurt, that kind of explained. The only lingering question there is then why did they keep playing him? I still would love to know if they knew how hurt he was, but maybe someday. I'm just looking at
Kiké's is interesting because Rosenthal in the tweet mentions condition that helps explain why it wasn't the same offensively and defensively last season, but it doesn't explain that when he came to the Dodgers, because when he came to the Dodgers, he was really good defensively, even at shortstop where he was kind of fell out of favor in Boston. He was pretty good at shortstop, made some nice plays. Offensively, kind of, found his swing again. So, maybe it was a combination of him not feeling great, and then Boston just kind of drug him down. And then maybe like the Dodgers were just a shot of adrenaline and he didn't feel pain for like the last 2 months or whatever.
Yeah, maybe. I've been one of the things I've talked about before is it always surprises me that Kiké isn't faster than he is. And I'm looking at his sprint speed percentiles by year. And he's never been as fast as you think he should be, but he actually was quite a bit slower the last 2 years than he had been even before. At his peak, he was like 65th percentile on speed, which is, slower than you would expect, but totally respectable. On Baseball Savant, that number is in a red shade, not a blue shade. It's above average for sure. 2022, 40th percentile. This year, 37th percentile. And so that's definitely something that you can see, like, oh, he had 2 hernias. That explains why he wasn't running fast. I don't run fast with 0 hernias. But if the speed could pick up, then maybe that does affect some things. The other 2 numbers that have been way down the last couple of years are his hard hit percentage, 22nd percentile last year, 17th percentile this year. And if he's not comfortable, if he's not feeling it, even when with the Dodgers, like he hit the ball hard some, but not as often as what we come to think of. Like in 2020, Kiké's hard hit percentage was 70th percentile. He was a legit hard hitter. In 2019, his max exit velocity was 90th percentile. This year was only 48th percentile. So definitely signs. If you look at his numbers the last 2 years, if this is something that's been lingering for 2 years, it would explain a lot because Kiké has been pretty bad the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, and I think I saw something else that he had another like procedure performed in 2022, something lower half as well. So that would explain and a little bit of why he struggled in Boston.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it does for his free agency. Coming off 2 bad years, if he can sell it as, yeah, but it was the physical issues and now I've had surgery, so I'm better. Or if he is going to have to take some sort of pillow contract, or, we talked yesterday about how he felt rejuvenated with the Dodgers. He liked being back in front of, playing for a winning team in front of a passionate crowd of a winning team, all that stuff. So maybe he does pursue coming back to the Dodgers. They can make room for him. Kiké is a guy who any team can make room for if he's at his best, because he's got so much versatility and brings a lot to the table when he's healthy and effective.
Yeah, and it's a little bit different from his free agency after 2020, where he was looking for an everyday role. And I'm sure if someone came calling with an everyday role, he would listen or take it, depending what team it was. I think he kind of realizes, I want to be with the right team, with the right environment, first and foremost. And then the role, obviously, I would like to have a significant role, but it doesn't necessarily have to be playing 162.
Yep. Yeah. So a lot happened today. Mostly confirming what we thought, but we really appreciate those of you who reached out with the Corbin Burnes trade ideas. It really was a coincidence that we got both of these on the same day. But you know what? Coincidences are great in the off-season podcast, because we love talking Dodgers with you, and Corbin Burnes is definitely a good topic. That's going to do it for us for today. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Thanks especially to our everydayers. Again, if you're not an everydayer, please become one. Please check out SiriusXM and the SXM app for all your baseball and Christmas music needs. You can follow us on Instagram and on Twitter at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at Vince since 91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog, and the DMs are open in for both of us. Probably better to DM us directly rather than our podcast account. It's just easier for us to get those. You can also email us anytime you want, lockedondodgers@gmail.com. or send us a voicemail or a text message at 323-863-LOCK 5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one.